Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to España. We ask that you please fasten your seatbelts, fasten your headphones as well, and secure your podcasting device. And remember, if you put on your sleep mask and you take that off, I have a question for you. Do you like movies?
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Jeff Kurbis, joined by Max Singer and Rich Inman. Boys, can you tell that I studied abroad in Spain?
Jeff, I definitely thought you were going to say, hey, if you can't put on your Salvador Dali mask over the child next to you, put on your own first. I fucked that up.
Max, how are you doing, bud?
I'm great. I'm checking the weather forecast for today's flight, and it does seem likely that the rain will stay mainly on the plane.
Oh my god. Well, boys, this week we are ending International Month with
we'll never do it again.
Maybe, but we're ending it with a bit of a bang in the TV show known
We're doing
as...
Squid Game again.
We're doing... Well, it actually, so funny you bring that up. When you see the costumes on the show that we do, you're going to be like, they did Squid Game again. But no, we did Money Heist. But before we dive too deep into this international thriller, Max, do you mind telling folks what this podcast is all about?
Squid's not a game in Spain. They take their mariscos and their fish very seriously. The pulpo is very treasured.
Tin Squid Game.
Paella game. All right, and we've been banned from the Iberian Peninsula. Fantastic.
Oh, the whole one?
Here at TV Pilot's License, we break down and analyze the pilot episodes of some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous shows. We learn a little bit more about how these shows came to be and were originally made, if they're effective pilot episodes of making us want to watch more, and if we think they can be made today, go back and stream our other episodes from wherever you get podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok to see our smiling faces. And if it is your first time flying with us, then welcome aboard.
And Rich, what is your question of the week?
Well, now I want to do it in Spanish because I also studied abroad in Spain. Obviously, when you do study in Spain, you learn a lot about the heist culture of the country. And I think that's really important. And I think something that's also important to know is... who's going to be on your team when you start planning a heist? So I want to know the 3 people, it could be real, it could be fake, that you want in your heist. And if you want to give reasons why, go for it.
Max, why don't you kick us off?
Just want you to envision like some getting a crew together music playing in the background. You know, we can't do it for licensing reasons. But yeah, get some generic crew getting together music. All right, so I've got 3 people lined up for my heist. First, we need a diversion. We need someone that can distract the crowd long enough so we can pull off the heist. And I'm bringing in the mayor of Flavortown, Guy Fieri.
Okay, you picked easily the most spottable person on earth.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's going to clamor to Guy Fieri while I do the heist. It's perfect. Second, we need a getaway driver. And I'm going with F1 world champion Max Verstappen.
Oh, son of a bitch.
I also had him on my list.
I had him on my list.
And then finally, I've seen a lot of heist movies. I know there's going to be like lasers and cameras and all sorts of things. We need to dip and dive and dodge. Very Thomas Crown affair. And so I'm going with the deeper cut here. It's an actor and stuntman by the name of Daniel Browning Smith. He's known as Rubber Boy, and he owns the Guinness World Record as the world's most flexible person. He's appeared multiple times on shows like CSI. He was in Adam Sandler's You Don't Mess with the Zohan. So he's my dipping and avoiding the lasers guy.
I love that.
And I'm also the world's
most... Nice. You've already established that Guy Fieri is the looks.
Damn.
We have 2 looks guys.
Okay, we got 2 looks guys, 1 driver, and 1 avoiding the lasers.
This is a well-balanced heist.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction. And we're going to start with the brains of this operation because that's not me. And we're going to go with Danny Ocean, the man, the mastermind himself. Yes,
I thought you were going to say like your cousin that works for Citibank.
No, you have a pro. You got have a man who successfully, robbed Terry Benedict's casinos.
Sure.
And I think that he could help me out in a very small heist as well. Now, in complete originality, but unoriginal, we do need someone who is going to be able to squeeze through things, who's going to be able to leap and do amazing acrobatic acts. And I have taken Simone Biles. I know she is not hard for cash, but I also know that Simone, you got that competitive spirit in you, right? We need to have that person going ahead. Now, you boys are probably wondering and thinking to yourself, well, Jeff is the muscle. Absolutely fucking not. That's not happening. I am the guy who sits in the car with the getaway driver, and that is going to be no one but Jason Statham. And yes, I am going with my Fast and Furious version of Jason in this instance. But
I thought you were just picking Jason Statham. Like,
it's
not
a great
as a
choice.
No, the actor Jason Statham.
Former British national diver Jason Statham. But no, I'm going with Fast and Furious version of him. And finally, who is my muscle? You guys might be thinking, wow, Jeff knows a lot of strong people. I'm picking the 5-time strongest man, Brian Shaw. This man is a Herculean human being that literally can't fit into cars. And I think, why not?
How is he going to fit in the getaway car?
He's got to walk. And that's also why we have him. He can be our fall guy at the same exact time.
Incredible.
But Rich, I'm curious.
Brian's going to jail.
Brian, I am so sorry. You are probably going to jail.
Oh, rough. Okay. Obviously, I spent a little bit of time thinking about this one because I knew I was going to ask you guys. Max also broke mine down into some categories. And number one, I think we need a master of disguise. Someone who could be anyone. So that means I'm going with the one and only Dana Carvey from Master of Disguise.
Pistachio Disguisey.
Who else are you going to trust so much in a bank heist? It's got to be the Master of Disguise. I obviously also need a getaway driver, so that's going to be none other than Yoshi from Mario Kart. And finally, I did really like where your head's at with the Guy Fieri pick, and I also picked an eye catcher. Paul McCartney is going to be involved.
Oh my god!
Number one, people can't help themselves when Paul McCartney's in the room. Doesn't matter how famous you are. Doesn't matter how rich you are. Everyone loves Paul McCartney. Number two, he does not need the money, so we're all getting bigger shares.
That is, you know what? Seems like a great
heist completed.
Oh, yeah, 100%. We're all
Paul
getting away.
In, gun at Yoshi.
Everyone's getting away except for Brian. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
If you're just joining the podcast, Brian Shaw, 5-time strongest man, is going to jail for Jeff.
Yes. Well, Rich, thank you so much for your question of the week. Let's talk about Money Heist, and we're going to start off with a quick synopsis. 8 thieves take hostages and lock themselves in the Royal Mint of Spain to steal billions of euros. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. That is what we are going to talk about today. And Max, I know a little bit more than that went into making this. So how did this get made?
So today we are talking about the pilot episode of Money Heist titled Efectar lo Acordo, aka Do As Planned, which originally aired on Spain's Antena 3 on May 2nd, 2017. And
as someone who studied in Spain, that is a popular TV channel.
And you're probably wondering, Max, what's this episode, Efectuar lo Acordo, that you keep talking about you're going to say throughout a bunch? Because when I went on to Netflix, it was just held episode 1. That's right. Netflix changed all of the episode names. They thought you were too dumb to read 3 words in Spanish, so now it's just called episode 1.
They're right. I'm doing a podcast on the show, and I'm still too dumb to do it.
And anyways, we are talking about the show's showrunner and creator, a gentleman by the name of Alex Pina, a successful TV creator and writer in his native Spain. Pina is behind Spanish hits including Los Serrano, Los Hombres de Paco, El Barco, and Via V, all in the 2000s. Following Via V, Pina sets up his own production company and begins working on a new miniseries with longtime director collaborator Jesus Colmenar. Pino was adamant on wanting to create a miniseries, feeling that his previous shows, despite their long runs, had become diluted by their success in their lengths, and really wanted to try his hand at something a little more contained. Originally developed under the working title Los Desahuciados, aka The Evicted, Pina set out to create a heist show that utilized surrealism and multiple POVs to subvert expectations and tell the stories from multiple angles. The pilot went through a lengthy road from page to screen, with the name change to La Casa de Papel, The House of Money, again.
Sure.
Netflix, see what you took from us. Over 50 drafts, supposedly, of this pilot, and a 26-day pilot shoot around Greater Madrid. The show premiered on Antena 3 in Spain, but it wasn't until the miniseries was acquired by Netflix, renamed and re-edited in its episodes, that it became the international phenomenon we know today. But I will leave all of that for Jeff a little later on in today's podcast.
Holy shit. I mean, I just can't imagine doing 50 cuts of 50 takes on the same pilot. It seems like it's almost impossible that this actually finally got made.
I read a note from Pina talking about writing it, saying that it took them a month to write the first 5 lines of dialogue. So whatever you're working on, don't feel bad.
Yeah, publish that tweet. You can do it.
I also what's horrifying to me is how many notes did he receive on that script for there to be 50 versions of it? Or is he just such a big critic of his own work as a man who took a month to write 5 lines that he just was like, nope, trash, and 1 page was considered a draft in his mind?
From what I gather, the biggest challenge they faced was figuring out the narration and POV for storytelling in this, and it went through all of these iterations where they tried to figure out, is there a narrator? Who's that narrator? Writing versus this draft entirely from different people's point of views, and who's our primary storyteller, before it eventually becomes the character Tokyo, who will kind of see the story through their eyes today. But yeah, with this 5 lines in a month thing, I don't care who it is in your life, your parents, your spouse, your partner, your best friends, your roommates. If they're asking you hey, how's that script coming along? You still writing? Yes, you are. Don't let anyone tell you you're not being productive enough.
And that is an important part of Spanish culture too, as someone who studied there. That you write 1 line, you go out, you have a cigarette, you have a little coffee, you take a week vacation, you come back, you write another line, you do the same thing. It's cut and paste. You just keep going. That's part of the process.
Oh my God. Well, Max, let's dive into that narration element a little bit, because we kick off this episode very differently than we have some of our previous international shows that we've talked about, right? And it is fast-paced immediately from the beginning, with a gun being shown directly to the camera, and then finding out about our character, who just tells us they go by the name Tokyo now, but they have gone through a failed bank heist, and they are on the lam. As far as everything went poorly really, really quickly.
I gotta give it up for these 5 lines it took a month, because my name is Tokyo, that wasn't my name when this story began, is a real fucking cool way to start a pilot.
It's a good sentence.
Yeah, it's 100% a way to give you guys a little sneak peek. I started this pilot watching by myself. That line happened. I gave it 5 more minutes, and then I texted my wife and I was like, you're going to want to watch this with me. And then she came running down and was like, all right, we're in, let's rewatch. And I was just as happy watching those first 5 lines in that first 10 minutes as I was the first time.
It took Jeff 1 month to get past the first 5 lines of this pilot.
That is honoring Pena's thoughts and his dreams when he was writing.
This episode was supposed to come out at Christmas. It took us so long to finally record it.
What do you guys think is the worst fictional character that you could start off with that exact line reading? It's my name was Pikachu, or my name is Pikachu. It wasn't my name before this started.
What is your fascination with Detective Pikachu this month?
You said detective, but
International superstar Detective Pikachu. No, I'm just
because
thinking
they made a goblin a cop.
I'm just thinking of the guy, the main character, the narrator from Memento, being like, "My name is, oh shit, I don't have that tattoo. My name." That would be so funny.
Oh well, I'm also working on my soon to be hit Weezer biopic where Rivers Cuomo turns to the camera and says, "My name is Jonas."
Oh, god damn it.
Oh my fucking god. Well, let's talk a little bit more about this Tokyo character, because even though this show, I think, prides itself in giving us very little detail, even like in this beginning episode where we're expecting to learn a lot about our characters, they give us just enough of an outline of a human being that we can attach ourselves to said human being. Love of her life died in the last heist that she tried to commit. She's a passionate human being because she went from being a bank robber. That line of, I went in a bank robber and I left a murderer, was one that was just like, oh, that was really well written too.
It's kind of part of the job, though. No?
I mean, it's never your goal to kill someone, I feel like. We've watched enough heist movies to be like, they don't want anyone to die. It just might happen, unfortunately.
I don't think a single person died in the Ocean's trilogy.
Yeah, that is correct, Max. I believe you are actually 100% correct.
For murderous purposes, at least.
Sammy Davis Jr. died. Does that count?
They didn't murder him.
You don't know that.
Oh my god. Well, we get this interesting perspective because our show switches from, hey, we're following someone who's on the run, to someone who has seemingly found this savior of sorts. In my first question for the two of you, is there a more aggressive version of introducing yourself to someone than sticking a pistol in their crotch and asking them, who the fuck are you? Because that was a moment that just, once again, we're keeping up a very high pace to this cold open, and it's drawing us in, and at least it drew me in of like, all right, who's this guy? Why do we trust him?
I mean,
and
she wasn't.
This is How I Met Your Mother.
She wasn't aiming to kill. You know, she could have had that gun at the jugular, at the heart. She's not trying to kill this man. It is just, it is engaging that we're just dropped smack dab into the middle of someone on the lam. We're meeting new characters. There's really no exposition as we start this pilot, and that's so fun. I think that we've seen just so many heists that begin with like the beginning of the story, what sets the person into motion, but it's like, no, like we are in the thick of it already. And I think that's a really good choice from Pina, just to like drop you in.
Especially, you know, and I'm definitely not calling Les Mis a heist property, but you definitely do need to have a real connection to why these people are doing this crime in particular, because you're going to watch them essentially commit this crime against quote unquote innocent people. You really need to find a way to buy it in. And, you know, I think Money Heist just does a terrific job of doing that.
No, Rich, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like, there is a distinct lack of lasers in Les Miserables, but, like, there's espionage elements. Like, it has heist elements for sure.
Are you telling me you're pitching me now Laser Miserables?
Look, don't even get me started on the 80s cocaine-fueled stage direction of Cameron McIntosh musicals. We do not have that much time.
I just want to see Russell Crowe singing about how he failed to protect the bank vault as Inspector Javert, but, you know, a man can dream. But I think that one of the things that also caught me in the beginning of this was just how well shot the beginning of this pilot was. There was a lot of interesting ways and perspectives, like especially if we look at the conversation that Tokyo had with her mother, of just seeing this slow zoom out every time we cut back to the mom, and then find that she's surrounded by a SWAT team, as well as every single cop. It's interesting. It's fresh. It's definitely, this does not feel like TV, right? This feels almost like it is a motion picture. And I say that, and we've watched how many international shows that were 90 minutes or longer that did not feel like motion pictures.
Totally.
Well, I would also argue that it feels like early prestige TV before TV became sound, like all the big sound stages and green screens and blue screens and things like that we kind of associate with like this now peak TV era. It's smoky and it's natural lighting and it feels very natural throughout it, which I appreciate. It feels like real set pieces. It doesn't feel digitized. There is a real warmth in the color palette of the show. Like, it is pretty to watch for sure. And like, because of that, like the bold color choices that we'll get into a little bit later on do really pop against these kind of cooler naturalistic backdrops.
So, Max, I've been waiting all day to ask you this. We have one of your favorite things happen in our next scene. Would you like to talk to us about how we got a crew together?
The Spanish tradition I studied there of getting the heist crew together.
I would like to talk about it, except I don't know. Am I the only one who really wanted them to get the crew together?
Yeah.
So, Rich, go ahead.
I feel like it just like went too fast. And I guess there's going to be a lot more exposition, if I had to guess, in future episodes, because they do have to have that thing of like, all right, we need to jump between time, because doing this like even remotely linear is going to feel like agony if we're trying to do this like in a long-term series, because everything about this screams movie, but they really went hard like drawing this out.
I will make a trade-off, though. We did not get individual scenes of building together the crew. However, in return, we get a heist house where they're going to live for 5 months while attending heist school, learning how they're going to pull off the heist. And listen,
oh man, who are you bringing to the high school dance?
I could have watched the entire pilot being heist school, and I would have been okay with that. Like, that would have been dope. If this was just going back to old school 24 episode TV and we spent weeks in high school with them learning how to do heist things, fantastic. Peak TV in my world.
So I'm going to slightly disagree with both of you in the necessity of like putting the crew together in a traditional sense, because I think that one of the important things that we do see in this is the idea of we don't want to know more detail than we need to know. And we're already in how we're showing off these, this cast of characters, this bunch of misfits, is that they even, like, there's small details of, like, they blank out everyone's name when they show them taking their photos.
That's a really fun visual touch, showing their mugshots with their IDs blurred out.
Showing their mugshots. But I also think it's such a great way of giving, we talked about the people that we'd want in our crew. These are the people that we expect to be in a crew. And as of right now, we don't need to know everything about them. We don't want to attach too much to them, because that's the goal of the professor in this.
And I do like that in heist school syllabus week, I guess we'll call it heist school orientation. We get like the crew rules really laid out, and they do it very simply, very clean exposition here. It's no real names, no personal questions, no relationships. And then a little bit later on, it's there cannot be any victims. So there's 4 heist rules to pull off the money heist.
So I do have a question for each of you.
Also, let's have fun. Everyone have fun.
Everyone, have a good time and come out with, I think we should say what we are heisting in this instance. And that is the Royal Mint of Spain for billions of dollars, a amount of money that makes Squid Games look like a fucking joke, because it's multiples of Squid Game. In all honesty,
2.4 billion euros, 2.4 billion.
Nice.
Which I think that one of the things that really got me into, like, okay, when I'm watching one of our shows, I think in segments of 5 minutes, if that makes sense, of like, how much I want to watch the next 5 minutes. Is there something that's happened that I'm like, cool, do I want to watch 5 more minutes of this? Have you earned that from me? As soon as the professor said, they're not going to want to hurt us, they're not going to want to arrest us, they're going to love us. We got 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
like
100%.
easily got, like, we got 30 minutes if I'm being absolutely honest, because that was a line that pulled me in. And then we got this beautiful intro sequence that I absolutely adored as we zoomed in on this model of the Royal Mint of Spain. And then we were taken in something that did seem very equivalent to like Game of Thrones-esque sort of thing. But I liked it a lot.
It's another really big part of any heist property is that you got to have a model guy. You got to have someone who can build exactly what you need, but a really tiny scale of it. You need a miniatures guy.
You have to have a 50-year-old dad from the Midwest who's really into model planes, and he is on the crew. Tweezer. He doesn't even know that there's a heist. You just asked him, you're like, Bob, I know can you make an exact replica of the Royal Mint of Spain?
Bob's a great guy. He hasn't had a thing out of the house that's just for him in years. He's really gangbusters to do this.
He's just excited that you're passionate about what he's passionate about, and you know what? That brings him joy.
Until we got that pan shot to the model, though, and then the opening credit sequence, I wasn't sure if this was going to be one of those pilots where we just ran the entire length of the episode and then got like a title card at the end, or if there was going to be an actual defined cold open or a credit sequence. Because I was just like, all right, like we've done like, I don't know, 15 minutes of exposition. The crew's together. We're at crew house. Like, it's time for crew dinner. Like, are we just going to keep going and doing crew shit, or are we going to like get a title card at some point?
That's another crucial part of any heist is that you need someone who you need someone who could make like a large quantity of spaghetti or something like that. That's like alongside the miniatures guy, there has to be a spaghetti guy.
So this show is
Jeff, I thought you were going to double down on Rich's point.
Jeff is moving on.
No, sorry. I had an idea in my head, and then it just completely took over my mouth.
If you want to comment hashtag spaghetti guy in the comments of this episode, we'd greatly appreciate it.
So I do want to talk a little bit about, after this beautiful intro sequence that we get, this show, and Rich, you sort of mentioned it, we get a gigantic time jump. Rather than seeing any form of training montage that maybe we've gotten used to, or any form of like, do we see them start to fumble and then learn or go through any sequences? No, we just go to day of the fucking
They grew up so fast. They graduated from high school.
God damn it.
As we go on, we remember all the times we
broke into the Royal Mint of Spain.
I'm curious from your two perspectives as people who we've all seen a ton of different heist movies, right? I think that we could each, if I gave us the opportunity, could name 5 to 10 that we really enjoyed and then have 5 to 10 more. I'm curious when it came to the actual heist, if you were super excited about it, if you were like, oh yeah, like we're heisting, or if when we started to see some of the non-crew members be involved, if that was where your interest became piqued. Max, I'm curious from your perspective.
I like the actual, like, we're going to break in from the inside plot of it all, how it's like, okay, here's the deal. There's giant trucks of unmarked banknote paper that get brought into the facility. We're going to hijack one of these vehicles. Did not expect them to sneak into the giant drum of paper. Didn't realize there was a lid on top of that thing. Thought it was solid. That was very cool. But a lot starts happening here as we essentially get 5 different plots happening simultaneously, the POVs. And this is that thing that I talked about up top with Pina wanting to have different POVs, subverting expectations. So I was trying to remember, like, are these people who were like undercover? Did I miss someone from high school, like from the high school yearbook, and they're now posing as someone who's friend, who's foe? And so it's fascinating because you're getting a lot of real people on the day of the heist who are going to be affected by this, which I don't think I've seen in any of like the really big like favorites that come to mind for me right away. I don't think I've seen like the pedestrian perspective in it.
I think the closest that we get to that in a property that we've covered so far is maybe 24. I feel like there's like a little bit of like on the ground, like think more and more people get revealed. But I think people don't do this because it's so complicated. You have to have so many leading actors in this, so many people who have to give a really, really great performance beyond the top of the call sheet. And it just like, if they were trying to do this in the US, it would be an expensive, like kind of logistical nightmare. And I could see that's probably why they spent 50 edits, or they spent their time with 50 edits.
So I definitely, there's two characters that really were introduced to that seemingly are involved in this heist, but we don't know how. And one is a 17-year-old girl who's on a school field trip that they just refer to as the Lamb. And then we have a woman who works at the bank, or excuse me, it's not a bank, the Mint. That
get it right.
Who also seemingly is involved. But I do like that they gave us a little bit of background of their lives are going on without any knowledge of a heist going on, right? Like, this woman is in an affair with her superior, it appears. The 17-year-old has a crush on a guy on her school field trip. We're going to talk about him. I have nasty things to say, but it's one of those interesting perspectives that you don't see often, and I think adds additional stakes to our heist, that because we've refused to give any details or backgrounds about these characters, we have to do it through potential victims that they might be affected.
When we cut to Tokyo's POV, though, when they're doing the cop car hijacking and the truck hijacking, she has a line where she says, if you think about it, there's never a good day for a heist, which in the moment, it feels like all of the things that have to go right for the heist, the hype heisters. But like in reality, it's also like that kind of affects the people on the ground too. It's kind of a double meaning in that. It's like there's not a good day to get heisted. Like it's going to be kind of shitty. Like there's not like a better or worse day that you could become like a hostage victim in a heist.
One of the things that I will give credit to is by giving us so little detail about our crew in the beginning, we get revelations throughout the heist. It would be very weird if no one talked to each other while they were robbing someplace, right? But we get these revelations like with Denver, or I think it's Denver and Moscow, right? Or the dad and the son in this
Moscow
instance.
and Denver, yeah.
Yeah, Moscow and Denver are talking about, like, we get the reveal that one of them was in prison and that's why the son went into crime. We start to get a sense of how bad of a person Berlin seems to be because he is out for blood on the smallest of things. But then we use a time jump to be able to reveal more about what happened with Tokyo. And I think that was an interesting tool. But Rich, I'm curious from your perspective, like, what did you think about seeing a time jump where Tokyo, who already had someone she loved, died in front of her, seemingly just can't help with people falling in love with her?
Yeah, it makes me think that this is going to be like a more emotional, like, okay, so when I wanted to say one thing when we were talking about the professor's rules. If you're laying out rules in the first 5 minutes of something, you're going to break all of them. You're going to very like slowly break them all, and all in like very consequential ways. And whatever didn't get broken before or like at the end of this pilot, it's getting broken immediately after. Like it is definitely going to be you could just tell that like certain things are, you expect someone who's like killed before or had a death in the family or like, you know, had a death close to them as a result of this. Like, you know, that they're either going to be like very stone faced, like I have nothing to live for. All I have is this money. or like, you know, or they're just going to be sad and emotional and kind of like let it fall apart on them. And, you know, I think we probably get a little bit of both.
So, Max, I'm curious from your perspective. We see more Heist, but we also start to see this plan reveal itself through one of our crew members not being there, the professor, the brains, the man that we know the least about, because there's no background of a criminal history. This seems to be a ghost almost of an existence, starting to reveal it as a semi narrator because of Pena's work, but also a man who seems like he really has no experience. He's just got a lot of great ideas in this sense. I'm curious of what you think about that.
Yeah, first time heister with no criminal background playing this for funsies is a really interesting choice for a main character in here. I do think it's interesting having a cut to POV to like see everything from afar, because it's almost like changing from like a close up to like a panoramic shot. It's like we kind of zoom out on everything from his perspective. I want to talk about the heist fits, because we're skipping over a big iconic part of the Money Heist lore, one of the only things that I knew about this show going into it, and that's the really freaking creepy Salvador Dali masks. Now, Rich, you studied abroad in Spain. Could you enlighten us a little bit more on Salvador Dali?
Boy, did I ever! Salvador Dali is a surrealist painter. Yeah, you may know, you may have seen many of his paintings out and about. He's known for his fancy pencil mustache that goes that curls up around his face. It's like his calling card, basically. And I think then he moved to Florida. Where else did I can't remember precisely.
where he's still residing to this day.
Like many famous weirdos, he ended up in Florida.
I as a man from Florida, I can say we're weird. But I think that Max, you commented on the use of color and the use of having these bright red outfits with these distinct Salvador Dali masks is such a great way of bringing your eye and bringing your attention to what is needed. Like I talked a little bit about the bank vault that they had, but like you just look at the characters, even though there is probably a couple million euros just lying on the floor, which Denver jumps on that pile of money and there's no bounce to that. That was insane.
Denver, you're not Scrooge McDuck. I'm sorry. This guy is a fucking idiot. His dad, Moscow, breaks open the vault and he starts doing that dumb like dip tin snap thing to show he's excited. And then he tries to Scrooge McDuck his way into the money. No, get a grip. Stop acting like it's your first day on the job. You had 5 months of high school to get your emotions under control.
So
idiot.
One question I have for the two of you is, in this episode, we only see part of a heist. Sorry for the spoiler alert for those frequent flyers that are listening. I'm curious if there was any, rather than talking about every single detail that we saw, I'd love to hear if there was a detail that you saw from the professor's plan that you were like, oh, that's super interesting. Did not think of that. Obviously, this guy has some idea of what he's doing. For me, it was seeing the wiring, that scene of the toilet, and then we just get a wire come out of it, because then we get the voiceover from the professor of, we'll want to be able to talk, but we won't want the feds to be able to listen.
More
that
shows
blew my mind.
Should have a dramatic zoom in on a toilet bowl. I agree with that. Yes, Jeff.
Rich, Max, anything else that stuck out to you from this heist?
I mean, really, it's mostly like I just want things to we're really only getting the tip of the iceberg here. It's one of those shows where you can feel off the bat that that every assumption you have in the first episode, all of that's going to be trashed by like episode 5. Every single thing. It's not what it was. It's not what you thought it was. It's kind of like, oh God, what the hell is the name of the show that like really gets off on making people really sad? This Is Us.
This Is Us.
Yeah, it's like one of those shows where they're just like, oh, we're gonna flip everything you thought you assumed from those first couple episodes, and we're gonna do them really sadly.
And then let's talk a little bit about what we then see, it seems as though there is a very distinct plan in place of they're not going to just run out with this money they got from the vault. They're going to go out and then they're going to come right back in. We hear these very distinct details from the professor. But things never go according to plan, and everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And Tokyo sort of got punched in the emotional face, let's say, because the man who proposed to her appearingly got shot in the head. I want to hear from the two of you as far as like what was the emotion that you were feeling when you saw this. Because I said, "Oh, this is when the show starts. This is when this is why we are here. We are here to see this gigantic plan crumble in front of us and the consequences of said one fuck up."
Yeah, Jeff, you mentioned your thing about like watching 5 minutes at a time, and the cut back sequence to the night before the heist. At first, I was like, okay, this is a really interesting choice. I'm not entirely sure why I'm watching these two like in Tokyo's room, that being Tokyo and Rio, and then they started having sex, and it was revealed they've been having sex every single night at high school. When you're
That's
when
what high school is for. It's for exploring each other's bodies.
when they're in the high school dorms and they're just going at it every single night. But I was kind of like, at first, I almost thought it was we've completed the money heist and we're showing after the heist. And then I realized, oh, this is the night before the heist. But that scene earns its stripes when Rio gets popped. But yeah, I don't know. What we're saying is there's a lot of plot lines happening, is what I'm getting at. There's a lot of plot lines happening.
I will say, just to the professor, this just goes to show that, abstinence or not talking about sex education in high school is the number one way to fuck things up for your students. So, you know what? Promote sex education in high school.
Boo.
Boo. I had to do it. Rich, I'm curious, what were you thinking when you saw everything crumble to pieces?
I mean, okay. Again, it's so hard to get into the assumptions and stuff like that. But like, I didn't think that they were going to violate one of the professor's rules so early. And also,
by fucking.
Well, number one, yes, number one by fucking, and like you just know, like, okay, they're going to reveal each other's real names. It's going to happen. Like, there's no. I mean, the reason. I have to imagine the reason that you're not supposed to know who you're alongside is like so no one contacts you afterwards. There's no plausible like way that two people can be connected or anything like that. But I mean, just immediately fucking it up. But it's a Spanish TV show. They're gonna bang. You can't possibly have one without it.
You can't get 12 of the hottest Spanish dramatic actors and 2 giant Serbian dudes, put them in a house for 5 months and not expect them to fuck.
I do think that one of the things that is so interesting about this, like, why do we use city names, is like, Rich, I think you sort of hit on it. The idea of, if one of them gets caught, what are you going to say? Right? You're going to say, oh, I was in a house with Tokyo and Berlin and Moscow, and then I forget the Serbian guys' names, but they were there
Oslo
too.
Oslo and Helsinki.
Yeah, oh, there we go. And then this man who just called himself the professor, and people are going to be like, oh, well, fuck, we have nothing based off of that. And if that gives your crew a half a second more to get away, then that gets them more time to get away. But we end this pilot with realizing that everything has fallen to pieces. Tokyo admitting that she made a mistake, and just some of the crew members saying, fuck, 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 as we zoom out on all of these hostages. The Mint is shut down because they shut the doors, and they're locked into the place that they planned on robbing in the first place. Max, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to give too much away if it's your first time watch this, but can Can we talk about the getaway plan here for a second, or lack thereof, or whatever the professor's plan was for after they robbed the vault?
Yeah, I mean, why not? It very much seems like the idea of what we were teased into, of like, oh, they're gonna love you. Why? What? Like, we need to get some semblance of that.
So,
At
so
least.
if I'm getting this right, the plan is they're going to sound the alarms while inside to get the police to show up, and then if I'm getting this right, they're going to shoot at the ground, retreat back inside, get out of the jumpsuits and dolly masks, make it seem like they were trapped inside the whole time. That plan sucks. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that this professor has never planned a single fucking heist in his life. That's an absolutely idiotic plan. When Tokyo says what the professor didn't tell us was that they'd fire back, no shit they're going to fire back. You've got guns. There's a heist. There's a robbery happening. There's alarm sounding. They're going to fire back at you. What did we think was going to happen?
So, a question that I have is, we only watched the pilot. If those bags hypothetically had the money, though, there's no way they're just carrying them out, right? Like, I assume we find out more in episode 2. I'm going to play dumb and act like I have not watched episode 2 yet. But like, there's a lot of the idea of like, okay, cool, that's it. Like, also, why do you get to not participate and be on the outside? And like, I have a lot of questions that were unanswered, and I think that possibly one thing that like I have as a wait a minute moment, and we'll talk about additional ones later, is like, do we need more exposition, or is that the beauty of this show that they slowly reveal with each episode?
I think we would all lose our mind if we got more exposition in the show. There's so many people we kept bouncing back and forth with, and these are in Spain, all probably very recognizable Spanish actors, or things like that. People can, in the same sense that we were able to recognize everyone's faces in Ocean's 11 immediately. The new one, at least, I have only watched a little bit of the old one. But yeah, I think it would just it's so much exposition in that first one. You almost have to write everything down, because everything's going to get flipped on its head, and it's hard to take that first episode at face value anyways, and like, you just have to really keep paying attention to all the pawns that are moving around.
So we are at the end of our pilot, right? I'm curious, from the two of you, was there anything that we didn't talk that was something that you loved about this pilot, maybe deserves a little bit more shine?
Final shot is gorgeous. The steps of the Royal Mint, the cool tones, the dollar bills flying everywhere, just the sights of the bright red jumpsuits on the cold stone marble stairs. Phenomenal framing. The wide shot of the doors closing back again and opening when they're in the mint. I mean, the framing, the color, everything in here. It's a beautifully shot show.
Rich, what about you?
Yeah, and I absolutely love the graphics on it too. Like, I thought it made everything like fun, and kind of like, it kind of gave like that like GoldenEye dossier feeling of it, which I really enjoyed. And then it's probably not the best song ever made, but the theme that goes through it, like the theme song that stays through with the episode, is such an earworm. I really loved it. It was it was like a terrific, it was like a beautifully shot, beautifully like soundtracked just episode of TV.
Yeah, and I will say, I talked about it a little bit, the storylines of the victims, that like refreshing new idea of like, let's learn a little bit more about who gets affected by a bank heist, or in this instance, a money heist, right? That lured me in. I also I love a cell phone wall. I love a cell phone wall with all the different codes on it. Never have thought about that. Loved it to pieces. And also, I think it's going to probably play a role in episode two for sure.
Oh yeah, if one cell phone went off on that wall before getting muted, you know that's playing a part in a future episode. Check off cell phone.
Let's talk a little bit about wait a minute moments. And one for me is that our lamb, our 17-year-old, that's a very traumatic story that like I even was like, whoa, like that's a lot. And we could have just had something, I don't want to say a little bit less risque, but I'm teeter-tottering between the idea of like, did we need it to be violating so much that the audience is like, holy shit? Or could we have like lessened it by like 3 degrees and like made it something that we're like, oh, that's awful. Like we didn't need to see it. Maybe we could have heard it said instead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious from you two.
I mean, again, it is Spain, and having studied abroad there, they're just
way to cut the tension, Rich.
they're
like a knife through a Barraco ham. Rich coming in with
you cut it so thin you could see through it. Yeah, there's I mean, it's just kind of like there's more of a normalization for like different types of I'm not even gonna go there, but yeah, I think it is definitely like it's a disturbing timeline, or I'm sorry, a disturbing story for sure.
Max, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a wait a minute, just even a little bit broader than you, Jeff, to men who are supporting players in our storyline today. To the Mint manager Arturo, who impregnated one of his coworkers and then was like, I'm not leaving my wife. And he's like, I'm a married man with 3 kids. Like, of course I'm miserable. Like, no, fuck you, Arturo, you piece of shit.
But
Yeah,
also the man literally said like, I can't get someone pregnant after saying like he had trouble with his wife having his 3 kids. And it's just like,
yeah,
like,
Arturo's
gross.
Arturo's full of excuses. He was the only idiot who lifted his mask when he was a hostage. Like, he's fucking up on so many levels. Arturo, you've got to wait a minute moment to the real handsy, grabby, violating high school teen on this class field trip. You're getting a wait a minute moment for me. I don't trust any of these men who have small supporting roles in Money Heist. You're all on my wait a minute moment list.
I will say one thing that Arturo was good for was that little monologue from Berlin about, do you like movies? Do you know what happens to the guy who looks in movies? You're that guy, was like just fantastic writing.
Yeah, Berlin's not on my wait a minute moment list. Berlin's doing his job.
Berlin literally told someone he was going to murder them, and Max was like, A+. You did your job today.
Because he followed the rules. There were no victims.
Oh my god. Well, boys, we do have one more question.
Oh.
An in-flight question.
Ooh.
And
another heist.
3 more
question.
People. Do you accept?
This question was great in the sense of, our main characters name themselves after different cities. What's the worst city you could name yourself after if you were in the heist house?
Oh, man.
Okay.
All right, Rich, well, while you think on that, I am going to go with Sheboygan. My heist name is Sheboygan.
Oh my god.
Is Jerry Lewis in your heist crew? Sheboygan. I think it has to be some city that sounds like another word that exists to give it like a who's on first type feeling. That's the one I want. I obviously like going with like a really, really long name, really, really long town name. It like feels good, but I really want to go with like I'm Nice, and everyone just
Your
calls
niece?
me Nice.
It's too late to change your heist house name. It's like Spanish class when you were in middle school. Like that's your name for the semester.
I'm gonna go with a small town in Illinois just called Normal. I
Nice.
am Normal.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. Nice. Normal is a great night.
See, it works.
Well, thank you so much for
Nice,
that.
Normal, and Sheboygan.
No one would ever expect us. Yeah, I did a heist with this guy named Normal. He seemed fine. Well, thanks for that in-flight question. We'll talk more about how to submit those later in the episode. Let's talk about the show's legacy. As Max said, this show went from being a show that was seen in Spain to one that Netflix picked up. Now, one of the most interesting parts about this was Netflix didn't really put much in terms of budgeting into the marketing dollars for this show. It was something that they picked up. They said, we have to cut it differently. And then they said, good luck. What ended up happening was this became, prior to Squid Games, the most watched non-English show on Netflix because it just got picked up and people started talking about it, which is amazing, right? Like that's especially, even though Netflix does a very good job of with their algorithm and all that stuff of pushing stuff, and then you are on a banner for too long and then suddenly you're watching a movie that you didn't click on. Sure.
Do you think it has anything to do with like Spanish being the second most spoken language in the US too? And obviously
I think that probably has a very decent part to do with it. But this show did have 3 seasons and 41 episodes. Final season came out in 2021. There are 2 spin-off shows that we could talk about. One is based entirely off of the character Berlin, and then one is a South Korean adaptation of this show that actually has some pretty decent popularity behind it.
Actually stars one of the stars of Squid Game.
Yeah, so, keep it in the family.
Just cashing those checks.
Absolutely. Let's talk about awards really quickly, because interesting in that because of this show being a Spanish show, most, if not all, of the awards are based off of like Spanish-based award shows. But 62 nominations nonetheless, 29 wins, which is a really solid hit
really
rate.
Good.
If you could say, hey, I'm going to win basically 50% of the time, you're doing swell. But they did. One of those wins was an International Emmy Award, which, hey, that's pretty damn great. But yeah, that's the history of this show. It is very popular. You can find it all on Netflix. And I will also say this show was recommended to me by multiple people for this podcast. So thanks for this recommendation.
Definitely.
Because it was fun to be able to do an episode on it. But boys, that is the legacy of the show. Rich, it is your time for your game of the week.
Yeah, and what better way to dive into a little bit of heist trivia with the game I'm dubbing Heistery. So both of you guys can jump in here. I think I made it a little bit complicated or a little bit difficult. I'm sick of you guys doing so well on these.
What heist isn't difficult?
Yeah, there's a couple rules for this trivia game. Don't learn each other's names. No one's getting hurt.
Oh, God.
All right. In 2017, thieves in the town of Neustadt, Germany, stole a refrigerated truck filled with 20 tons of this sweet, leading to police searching for black market sellers all throughout Europe. Is it A, chocolate Easter bunnies, B, marzipan, C, stevia sugar, D, Nutella?
Max, I'm going to let you go first.
Can you please refer to me by my heist name of Sheboygan?
Sheboygan?
Nice.
I'm going to go with marzipan. Just wanted to pay tribute to Homestar Runner there.
Amazing.
I'm gonna go with the chocolate Easter bunnies. I think that might be it.
Yeah, neither of you guys got it. It was Nutella.
Damn it.
Nutella. It was Nutella and Kinder eggs.
Oh.
All right. Second question. In the hit remake movie Ocean's 11, the wig that Brad Pitt wears is the same wig used in what other franchise? It's the same wig.
Is it Friends?
Harry Potter. Harry Potter. Austin Powers. Rush Hour. The Mummy.
Oh gosh. Oh wow. I'm just trying to think about timing of it. I'm gonna go with Rush Hour.
Oh, Max, I was gonna go with Rush Hour too. But
what did I say about using my name?
Also, Rush Hour 2 is a different movie entirely, Jeff.
I'm gonna go with Austin Powers, and please call me Normal.
Never.
Normal and Sheboygan. It was Austin Powers, specifically the movie The International Man of Mystery. Now we move into same wig. Why? It's not expensive to use a different wig. Why did they use the same wig? All right.
The wig was just in the area, you know.
It just happened to be in Vegas at the time.
And the wig has just such a good agent.
Yeah, the wig was just there, and then, you know, the director asked really nicely, "Do you mind doing us a favor?" And the wig was like, "Yeah, why not?"
That's so funny.
Yeah, I like Soderbergh. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's great.
All right, last question. In 2008, a group of gunmen robbed the Harry Winston jewelry store in Paris, making off with over $90 million worth in jewels. The unique thing about this is that everyone involved was wearing A, high heel shoes, B, soccer jerseys, C, the same pair of Oakley sunglasses, D, big floppy hats.
I think it's soccer jerseys. I think I remember this one. But Max, what are you thinking?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm trying to, and again, it's Sheboygan. I'm going to say high heel shoes. It seems the least practical, and I'm going to go with it.
You are correct. They were all in drag. They were in high heeled shoes and wigs.
Oh, hell yeah.
But not the same wig from Austin Powers. So well done.
Oh.
well done, Sheboygan. That's been history.
Well, boys, as our flight comes to a land, I have two questions for each of you. And one is, would you continue watching this show based off of the pilot? Did you stack enough 5-minute segments to say, you know what, I'm giving it at least 5 more minutes? And two, you know, the show did end in 2021. It appears that it was super duper successful. Maybe we wait a couple years and just make an American-based version of it. Screw subtitles. Max, I'm curious from your perspective.
And you can call me Max again, because I'm answering this question from the perspective of a Heist fan and not as a Heister. This is actually a no for me. I thought that it was a beautiful show to watch. I appreciate that it, subverts the genre a little bit, but for me, it's a lot of hot air. It's a lot of very indulgent moves with the time jumps and reversals. I think that it's a little too cutesy with playing into the mystery. I need to care. I need the emotional attachment. I need the relationship between Pierce Brosnan and Rene Russo in Thomas Crown Affair, like while she's hunting him down and them not knowing it. I need, the Danny and Tess in Oceans. Not to say like I need like a romance, but like I need to see you on more of a personal level beyond the heist. And I just don't get that with anyone in the first like 40 something minutes of Money Heist for me to care enough. As for it getting remade, I am also going to say that's a no. I think that
it'd be crazy if you said yes.
Yeah,
it'd be insane. Let me just be clear. It would be insane if you were like, yeah, remake it. Like,
here's why the very first one sucks so much. Yeah, give us another one.
No, I mean, like, I could see why people like it, and I think it's just one of those things where it's like, look, there's the audience. There's no shortage of crew movies, heist movies, robbery movies that you could tune into if you want to. It's a little bit more crash and whiz bang and sleek. I don't see a reason to remake this.
Rich,
Oh, yeah.
what about yourself?
Well, now that I'm no longer nice or niece, I am gonna say it's interesting you said that, Max, because I'm like, this is a show where I have to like commit to the entire season. There's no dropping off. There's no because there's just so many stones left unturned. I would say I would finish the entire season. I don't like I doing one more does not suit anyone. I don't think like so many things are going to be left like unresolved, and there's so many chess pieces being moved around that you can like I would almost need to take notes, I feel like, to keep this all in my head. But I would give it a season. If I think the world needs more, specifically Money Heist, I don't think so. Like the fact that they already went through, was it 4 seasons, right? 4 seasons of this. Like, is it 4 different heists? Is it like the same crew, but they're like, I don't know. Like it, I don't, I can't see watching another season of it. Period. So it feels like a one and done for me. But I would give it the whole season. What about you, Jeff?
I consider this show a momentum show, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you stop watching, I could see how it could be hard to get back into watching it.
It's the reason
if
I
that
stopped
makes
watching
sense,
Game
right?
of Thrones. I was like,
Yeah.
I've already. There's so much missing now that I have to either start it all over entirely or be lost.
So, with that being said, I am going to give this another 5 minutes. I am going to give this potentially and probably another few episodes, in all honesty, because I am curious to see, not even as a TV fan or a fan of the show, I'm curious from the mechanics perspective of how Penna decided to reveal
Oh,
all of
I
these
thought you meant
details.
you wanted to see the perspective of the guy who operated on the getaway vehicle, the mechanics perspective.
No, I think that when I watch this show, and this is unique for us on the pilot, on this podcast, of watching it more so from like, how did they make it work from like a writer's perspective and from an editing perspective, and making sure that the audience felt like, I need to fucking watch more of this, because the audience did not get the luxury that we do of having it all on Netflix, right? Like, because if I wanted a show where I was just like, oh, hour by hour, 24 is pretty fucking great. And those shows still are bangers. And though, like, every single season is, as Rich and his entire family are very well aware of.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, like, making more of this, we don't need more of this. This show is so recent. I don't see there being really a lack of like a missing space of heist in at least the American culture, where it feels like there's a different robbery or like getaway or criminals on the lam movie every couple of months. So let this exist. It seems to be hitting the notes with a lot of people, and who knows? Maybe I'll come back in a few weeks and be like,
I watched it all.
Max, you fucked up. And you need to watch more. But who knows? Well, gentlemen, our flight has come to a land. And before we go, I want to make sure that folks know where to find the two of you. So, Rich, where can folks find you?
You can find Nice at Damn That's Rich, and you can also find original sketch comedy from Max and I at Dadwagon Comedy on TikTok.
Max?
You can catch me throwing a kegger at the Heist House this Friday night. Don't tell the professor. You can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Singh.
And you can find me taking a siesta, but most likely you can find me on social media at RunJeffRun. If you are looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube if you want to watch our smiling faces. And if you want to shoot us an email, maybe you have a question for the show, you can shoot those at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com, or give us a call at 213-290-1713. Any subscriptions, comments, anything that y'all do, it really helps us out. And it gives us ideas for upcoming episodes, although I know we're pretty excited about some of the stuff that we have coming out. Make sure to follow us, because we do put out sneak previews of some of the things that we are planning to do. And you can even have an in-flight question included in the show. But with the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to the... Excuse me, I'm going to re-record that. But with that said, and the plane landed, the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then, high school.
Bang.
España.
España.
Did you guys study abroad?
Oh yeah, did I not tell you?
We can talk about that on another episode.